Hello, dear Canada and Americans. Like for example, I don't know the name of the man in the thing. Good people are kept evil since some ancient times, and with uses of words like ally or enemy, and the difference. All uses of Boolean logic. I was just speaking about this in the other live stream, but in other words, the live streams I had before that are better. In other words, there's more World Trade Center attack rolls with all kinds of natures of uncharged organized crimes and methods of them that are really the most involved with the worst facilitations of and uses of overt criminal enterprises and private ones, recorded with time collusion slash S, even with cases they're not involved with. Increasingly, too, with cases against little kids, where they're putting fake conversations and ties to kids pretended into police databases with people involved with the World Trade Center attack, and with this man's syntax regarding governors and how they're close to Canada. There's a Governor Malloy involved with intelligence families from East Hartford, Connecticut, intercities involved with multiple police departments with people with the name Colo and DeMoro, who said they have a cousin named Scalora. People with the name Scalora have been identity theft, fraud, slanders with former director of the F.B.I, Robert Luskin, and various natures of courts involved with sequence shifts and federal evidences crimes, collusion slash S, with names on all sides of cases at the same time, with names next to the crime scenes and with the news, and with as their collusions too, refusing to identify themselves legitimately since I was a kid, and criminally foreign influence uses of time treatments, intercities. They make things complicated so they can pretend not to understand simple things and then stack things and pretend that's complicated that way too, using complicated and simple a tactical ulterior from how nature shows us to appreciate the simultaneous slash hyper simultaneous too. I explain how we can discern this. There's relativity. We have black people's whites of eyes. Therefore, there is relativity. Other species' bodies have eyes distinctly from humanity, but non-distinctly and simultaneously, but prefer that which is further a distinct identity of simultaneous nature, hyper simultaneous. We have been systems abridged. And so, in other words, people are making and keeping the nature debate where they want where they can't defend that without forcing the people that are trying to counter them to show what they're leaking at countries A through Z, their uses of their identities of difference. How we can discern this too. The names of the people of the sciences, even the names of the people of the sports and of the religions. The differences of their guilt with the breaching method or the people attacking them. And the exceptions. They take collusion as an array against anyone who tries to appreciate American history or any of the sciences or the religions in sequence the way they ask to be treated, with principal treatments. For example, the beginning of the Old Testament says only defend right here, where the names of the people of the sciences will come together in the part that comes before it. And that's before the part in Genesis with the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which we're not supposed to defend that part. It says defend only the beginning part. But no, how people, we can discern that people have used their knowledge of good and evil to pretend they're legitimately debating with people that use how we have black people's whites of eyes, for example, and that's inseparable from any proper treatment of what slavery was about. It was entrenched northern colonies and southern colonies, more than 13, before America's founders were even born. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. America's founders had to leave declassified for themselves, to be declassified for themselves what was. But rather than doing that and changing the narratives and natures that were forced to be pretended, by the breaching method. They had to pretend even the fake motivation. The breaching method was one of their motivations for roles with the American Revolution and and modern countries' revolutions. We know that instinctively. But also James Madison's plan, no one knows about, even though it was declassified, because everyone already has and has had self-valued roles, with uses of everyone who was not our founders, including the presidents. The only president that we know was our founder was James Madison. They directed us to understand him as our founder, and then they had to classify for him why and how he did not have free speech. But Governor Malloy also has a bunch of fire departments, family members involved with Hartford Hospital and with their intelligence, with foreign and domestic military, involved with a bunch of families involved with the World Trade Center next to it, and the court next to it, and names on all sides of the case right before the World Trade Center attack were ever there, that are increasingly collusion/S with predicate acts methods. I recorded that former director of the F.B.I., Robert Luskin, had and has every year since the World Trade Center attack, too, with connected police departments. Some Mendez police attached me to the fact of fake conversation with one of them, or with any of the Wethersfield police, when I was an adult, and people tied to them when I was a kid. I don't know where they live. Never hung around with them. He called me one time on the phone as one of their roles with wire crime methods, as it were their roles with all kinds of falsified police reports, identity theft, fraud, slanders, also intercultural and intracultural, and the same way, and with the same uses of the differences of religious spots or names next to them, names at body dumping spots or next to them. Even if those body dumpings are made up, the spots are made up. In other words, and the state corrections office and judicial branch offices of Connecticut, there are increasingly people involved with Washington, D.C., and with the World Trade Center involved with predicate acts at campuses. And they're recorded involved also at the community center of Wethersfield, and names on all sides of it, and conjunctions to that and to that. Also collusions with identity theft, fraud, slanders, criminally foreign influence uses of investigators, and the ages of their family members, the time collusion/S, where and how this breaching method shows. The courts, they need to hide how they used, it can be shown how they used words like adult or immature or kid or as collusions. Still, Whiting Forensics has a Joshua Julian, also involved with people on my street I don't know the names of, and people tied to him, like named tied to I don't know where he lives. Phil Clough has roles with 80 Carroll Drive, also with retired police chiefs and their family members, and one of them has recorded a intimate girlfriend that lived at 80 Carroll Drive, and conjunctions to them. Like there are increasingly judges and prosecutors and their family members involved with that same house, and with their educators too, and a whole bunch of people from other areas planting evidence on all sides of my house in digital crimes, with Whiting Forensics too. Whiting Forensics has digital crimes of Wethersfield Police with New Britain Superior Court, with a Joshua Julian with a Facebook page of a principal obscure nature, involved with other worse digital crimes, and organized crimes with kids. Also medical and sexual, foreign and domestic medical families tied to a bunch of family members at New Britain Superior Court, and uses of the ages of them, further roles with the maturity syntax. So no, and this is between the Facebook page of Campuses Forced. They're changing and faking phone conversations. They're using their own differences and other people's differences to hide life progressions, hide actual motivations, how they already were used, criminally foreign influence, pretending, using like a truth for a lie, like they have the right to lie. but they have obligations not to lie in other contexts. And in other contexts, it's against the law for them to lie. And they're leaving out exception nature. So increasingly, police have been refusing to identify themselves intercities, as multiple police departments involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, also recorded with other police forums, and deans and their kids, and other principals and their kids through time involved with the same house /S 80, and conjunction involved with predicate acts. But see, who's responsible and all that? It's increasingly people involved with a whole bunch of different countries. And their motivations are too relative to the breaching method. I never had a class with them with a break low in grammar school. And before that, people next to each campus I went to. Before that, in other words, I went to kindergarten. I went to like preschool at a Montessori school in West Hartford, involved with people with the name Mendez and Sioka, involved with some sexual and medical offenses of kids, involved with the FBI and courts, and Hartford Hospital, also with identity theft, fraud, people putting fake transcripts and fake ties to doctors. Like there's a Dr. Gilmore. I don't know, we tied to it. It's Christina Soker. I never met him. She gave me some multiple choice thing. I told her I wanted to speak about predicate acts, people involved with World Trade Center crimes and confessions with the courts before the World Trade Center attack, requests for help. Now I found out those people, see, these are all people tied to the systems where they're all connected with the databases used, criminally foreign influence. They're putting fake transcripts in databases as families that have had collusion /S with all natures of crime scenes. Same things they try to counter. They have worse collusion /S with, and with the use of their differences. The location. This breaching method keeps people's jobs with the law incapable of affording people to use what's actually recorded. They're trying to, when they're in defenses of their uses of their knowledge of good and evil, like weapon systems and things like that. Why don't we just pay attention to how they have collusions here with organized crimes here, with identity theft, fraud, slanders here, people involved with the bordering states and the bordering countries. They never stopped having collusion against themselves in defense of themselves and against us, and the difference of it tied to people manifest speaking about allies or enemies, leaving out and replacing the breaching method and sensing for it too. Not one side. We're supposed to address how they have our founders framed for slavery right through our schools as collusion with all the other countries too. Our own schools don't even allow people to understand it properly. All exception nature come with demonstration /S of the same thing. People are there was only 3 branches of government. This breaching method since before modern religious messages were born. It knew that they would need to be hiding, which actually projected, which is their actual value and use /S of it. So it shows them how to do that. And it already showed, and while they're doing that, they're valuing that having been done. And then it's going to keep showing them how to keep getting over on fact treatment nature. You guys are breaking the law. The ones pretending other too, pretending not to realize what I'm saying. Oh, well, that's it. Well, you know, because it was written there. Their databases are fake. That's why they're starting with the campuses too. They have collusions with all natures of crime scenes. There are means to discern this, but they are being and haven't been used to show the natures of retired and standing interbranch. They need to hide what's actually discernible. Forgiveness is because even worse is that countries A through Z, keeping that the outcome /S. The suits and ties, counters and exceptions as an array and collusion and or sensing for the breaching method. Anybody trying to counter properly syntactically, including if as a majority of people, including if as everyone. So they have a whole bunch of different kinds of wire crime acts, mail crime acts, and methods. Medicines crimes, drugs crimes. They have the audacity to bring up drugs as a subject matter. Internationally, right through World War, psychiatry was criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions raw. The nature debate contains quality aspects of nature at countries A through Z that are criminally foreign influence, finite, grouped, and simultaneous. Why don't we use that for evidence? In other words, they wouldn't have had problems of people. They could have made agreements. That's which they should do now. If they want people not to have nuclear, they should have them. Okay, well, what are you guys going to do? We got water, beautiful. Drop it down in beautiful ways for them. Make all kind of free, pure, clean water and freshwater fish sources of food. Fix the tactically denatured before America's founders were even born. The suburbs were designed to cause negative value nature, progressions, acts of nature. And the rest to be unfold like suburban/urban. And straight up urban and rural, even the rural landscape theater, tactically denatured. Nature wants us to try as a species body for what is true always. What we all actually will. Polling is changing what we. Polling is asking us things through for others' motivations too. Screening it through putting hyper additional parent and even the real motivation is used to screen. We want the Constitution unabridged. We want, no matter who gets in office, we need to get them to stop faking things in databases. Police phones families like one's named Mendez and tied to Mendez, the name Smith. I don't know the people tied to them, so I have to use their names too. They're doing that game. Then they lie about why we bring up people's names and privacy. They have sequence shifts with their syntax regarding privacy with the news. Rather than let good people just keep getting used remotely by the people who are above them too, like people with the names Christine. One of them, people all with conjunctions to root 3 into that. In other words, increasingly with the judicial branch offices and the corrections offices, involved also with the educators of intelligence families that live near me and that used to, and involved further with this game, refusing to identify themselves legitimately for years now. Intercities, Wethersfield police have roles with it though, with all intercities, other police departments, other police forms, whiting forensics, state police families, interstates, involved with the work criminal enterprises, private ones, and the educators of these people. Criminally foreign influence uses of databases involved with predicate acts methods. We have police departments that are incapable of countering crime and impositions upon themselves distinctly because there's a torture, extortion, extraction, nature, slavery method they use as differences. It's attacking every single difference. That's why we have to show them guilty simultaneously with the overt criminal enterprise at private. That's what's reported anyway. Anyway, they have more World Trade Center predicate acts to show that their roles with terrorism was effectively used to pull off. How the breaching method shows them to read and write news into reality. Criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions wrought, like with the Patriot Act, with their notions on the legitimacy of what they have blind faith in, with torture. They have a whole bunch of jobs that are told to do. He's focused on this task. Those same criminal enterprises. That, in other words, and they have Congress. They keep secrets from Congress. How are they going to hide their money unless they do all things like that? And they don't even have to have our founders. Where our founders communicated about the difference of political parties, about differences used by the preaching method. You guys have that replaced. Peace, trade. Who disbelieves? So they refuse to identify themselves legitimately into branch before and after the World Trade Center attack. These are names with the agencies, with countering the borders. All they're doing is facilitating their use of their difference. Oh, that's my job, you know. But then when it comes to they have all kinds of organized crimes roles and methods roles. You know, with fact treatments. Can't you guys have roles with collusions with all natures of crime scenes, including how the American history is taught. The names of the people of sciences are being and haven't been used remotely. Criminally foreign influence / tactically delusions raw. Criminally foreign influence / hypercriminally foreign influence. While tactically delusions raw. And this would not be instead. It may pray. So they have the women interbranch intelligence forced to repeat fake things, make up fake things with the men distinctly. That's recorded too. Wethersfield police have people with the name Sullivan. They didn't give the whole name. Involved with name switching and forging, only giving one part of a name, refusing to identify themselves while they're putting fake transcripts in databases. And they use the phone for confessions to tie to them their cover-ups because they've attached me to fake being at the police station to speak with them. That wasn't at all when I was a kid. Now as an adult. Increasingly, a Kevin Dillon is one of the ones involved with the retired police chiefs and detectives who also have collusions with home break-ins through the years, with whiting forensics people, involved also with the security at the campuses and their family members, involved also with medical families, foreign and domestic, involved with judges, prosecutors, and their kids, and victims advocates and theirs at the same time, involved with organized crimes, and with the Governor Malloy with Maine University or wherever he works in Maine, involved with medical campuses and their patients and criminals, including if any of them they apparently have intelligence families that go in there and they're supposed to be honest, but they're just being all sides of cases and all voices as collusion / S, where they're putting fake transcripts, and they have time collusion / S with the same house and conjunctions to them with the parallel streets. Also involve interstates with criminal enterprises and counters to them as collusion / S, also as the ones with their extended family members per them, with the name Scalora. Involved also with Wethersfield police making confessions about the name Scalora. Involved with them with predicate acts on my street. They're pretending are not predicate acts, but they're refusing to identify themselves. Like one cop forced himself through my door and threatened me about Scaloras to make it look like I could ties to them, and hiding their roles with the Scaloras, with proven child abusers, leaders of kids, first force, more sexual and medical offenders of kids, and roles with untimely deaths at Trinity College, with people on my street involved with the Scalora and Robert Rodriguez, a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital involved too, with the same house with my past neighbors, involved in intercities with them, with the untimely deaths and confessions, and trying to plant truths and fake ties and nature's ties to people with short conversations. That's one of the things that connects the people where they leak to the government, as there was with World Trade Center predicate acts with the news too, at the same time as the interbranch to prevent writing. And lawyers have all kinds of scams with them, like a Trantola. They have roles. So they have roles with proven child abusers, other natures of organized crimes roles with them, and natures of all kinds of identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake motivation screening. A breaching method is relative to the motivations of people A through Z when they blame things like on politics, on truths, but they're using those truths for lies. All lies. Who disbelieves?